Good evening, guys. Hi, Karan. Hi, Blue Dragon 17. So, today evening we are here with our Keep the Passion series. Times are tough. We are having to change the way we work, we practice, we exercise, and it's very difficult to keep the passion alive with what we are doing on our day-to-day lives. So we thought that it would be great if we could get some inspiring individuals to chat with you, come and discuss with you on how they are keeping the passion alive in these new times and difficult times. So today we have with us Dr. Aditya Daftary, who's going to join us shortly. Let's wait for Aditya to come in, and I'll introduce Aditya to all who have joined in today. Aditya is here with us.
Hi.
So for those,
Hi, Jaymin.
hi Aditya, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Before we start off, let me just quickly introduce you to the people who've joined in. Dr. Daftary is a trained radiologist from the Yale Medical School, uh, and he's been working with SportsMed in Bombay. He runs his own practice at Innovation Imaging, and he's a cyclist himself and part of the very inspiring Whirly 545 community. It's so great to have you here with us today, Aditya.
Thank you, Jaymin. It's great to be here.
I met you the first time in 2016 when you were a part of the Whirly 545 group that rode from Delhi to Bombay. And even then, in that limited interaction that we had, I always thought that you were the one who was the live wire in the group, always having something to say or keeping it light for that journey that you guys had. So,
Okay.
it's great to have you here on the Scott channel and get your story out as well. So, I mean,
Thank you.
you're a doctor. Uh, what got you into fitness? I mean, what motivated you to get into fitness?
So, I have to say that since I've been a child, I've always enjoyed sports and games. I was never very good at any of them. I was in school. I won the most enthusiastic house member award. This was the claim to fame, which meant that you were basically the guy who shouted the loudest when you went to the game. Um, but but I played every sport. I was definitely overweight a little bit for my age, but never stopped me from doing anything. And I think all kudos to everybody around me who never stopped me from playing what I wanted to play, irrespective of what my size was. They just, play. That's fine. And, we'll take you last, or we'll take you second class, or we'll take you third last. But, you get to play. And then that I think is one thing that in today's sporting environment, to some extent, we're losing. We had I read many years ago a lovely article in the New York Times where this guy just writes an article saying, I just want my child to be able to play a game of pickup football. We've moved so much into organized sport that that if you just wanted to play for the sake of playing, I mean, how many kids that we know in South Bombay today are going around playing kho and langdi and anything else? So we're making sport an event in our lives as opposed to where it should be a part of our lives. So for me, definitely sport in many ways has been a part of our life, whether it be, all of us, at least in our age group, have memories of spending evenings watching those Wimbledon finals or watching those cricket finals, or, all the little things. So sport has definitely been a big part of my life. Never been very good at it. I would say that in my current state of life, I am probably the fittest I've ever been in my life.
That's great.
It's a journey. It's a journey. You flip switches on and off in your head at different times, depending on how how you work. But you sort of keep doing this stuff. This journey keeps happening. So it started out, probably playing squash and tennis. Played that for a few years. Found great friends while playing sports, which is one of the big reasons why to play sports. And then moved on later on, fell down while playing volleyball or something which I was never designed to play. Tore my meniscus, went back to playing squash, started getting joint swellings, was told you've got to stop, you can't play squash anymore. said, no, I want to run a marathon sometime in my life. So sort of trained for that, ran at a horrible time. And then sort of from that came out and was like, this is, couldn't run anymore. Started to cycle, started cycling, cycled around just like, literally with a baguette in the front of the bike for the longest time. And until you ran into somebody, a bunch of people who were just racing around, which is the early 545 group, and you just sort of tried racing and chasing them. And you say, I can be better. I can try and catch these guys. And then, you run into who both of us know very well, somebody like Nigel Smith, who just says, well, why are you just running around like a twit? Why don't you put some focus into where you're putting your efforts in? And then you sort of get into that next level of the journey of your fitness. And then from there, you move into the thing where you say, if I have to get any better, it's like, I want to lose some weight on the bike. And then you have to change your diet. I'm like, I'm Gujarati. We don't change diets by default. I mean, this is just the way we're constructed. We have to eat what we have to eat.
Yeah.
And then you sort of get into it and you say, well, maybe I can make that one change. Maybe I won't put sugar in my coffee for a week. And that's where it starts. And then your journey, next thing, and then, so it's always this little cycle that goes on. And it's sort of this bee that you keep humming in the back of your bonnet. You have its ups and downs. And you just sort of try and make sure that you stay up with that. It's your journey. And it's for you to decide how you take that journey. So that's sort of where I come from.
So it's almost as if you started off like the proverbial 12th man on the team. And then throughout your journey, you've kind of evolved. You've tried different things. You've been good at certain things. You've gotten yourself injured playing a certain sport. You've kind of evolved and reached to where you are, which is, as you said, the fittest that you've ever been in your life. So I think the important message over here also is that, people put a lot of emphasis on being the best at what they do and winning at what they do. I don't think so. It's so much about that as much as it's about enjoying your preferred sport or preferred physical activity and just going along with that, I guess.
So I think it's about finding purpose for your sporting journey. And your purpose for your sporting journey will vary at different points in time. So, my purpose for my sporting journey at one point in time was I've got a bunch of friends who like to play. It's a great way for me to hang out with them. And so that's the purpose of my sporting journey. At another point in time, the purpose of my sporting journey is I've got a focus. I want to run 42 kilometers or whatever. So that's my focus of my sporting journey. Then the other one is you just want to keep weight off. So you decide that I'm going to have a sporting journey for that. And then you find people that you ride with and you say, I want to get better. I want to get stronger. I want to get faster. I can do this. And then you start to explore the limits of your body. And you say, well, my sporting journey is I want to explore the limits of what I can do with this mortal self of mine. And so I think you just have to figure out at any given point in time what your journey is. And just follow it. I mean, and I think when you find a journey and you find something that you want to do, the right kind of people pop up in your world. So when your journey is, I want to really push and I want to do something hard, somebody will pop up in your life who will be like, well, here's how you can push and here's how you can do things hard and here's what you can do. And, other times in your life, I want to find a great group of guys I can play squash with, after whom we go and have a beer and pizza every Friday. And those people will show up in your life. So it somehow just connects up and fills up. And that's what I thought to sort of enjoy about the sporting journey in general.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that you kind of find similar people throughout your journey. And I think sports has a way to do that. You follow one activity, whether it's running, cycling, you meet new individuals along the way. You make great friends, as you said, go out for a beer, get a pizza. And I think that's the great thing about following a fitness schedule is that, you can kill yourself out there, but on the weekends, you can also reward yourself with that beer and pizza that, it just kind of balances all things out, meet new people and make it as fun as possible.
Yeah.
So how often do you ride? Is there like a schedule or is it something that is more freestyle?
Yeah, so I'm definitely far more scheduled about or more focused about the way I ride now. In terms of just saying that, I have a certain level of fitness. I want to keep it. There is a certain element of me that says I want to push myself harder, to go a little bit further, to go a little bit harder. So, And the quick fix these days is the high intensity interval training session. So I generally tend to, and I like it when somebody says you have to do just one of these a week. It sounds like a small thing. It's a horrible thing. You get PTSD after it and before it, but post traumatic stress disorder. But it's something that becomes a little bit addictive, and I think that's the interesting thing when we talk about pain and suffering and hard work. Once you're done with that, you end up with what's called the endorphin rush. And that endorphin rush is what brings you back to that session the next week or the next month or the next year, and time after time. And then after a while, you're like, no, I don't want to do this. And you take your 2 weeks off, and sometimes it becomes 3 and whatever else. So yeah, I think for me, it's one high intensity interval training session. If I have time, then maybe one. A lot of things have become now about making being time efficient when you do it. So the one high intensity interval training session, maybe one one technique session, whether it be a spinning session or it be a power session or something like that. And then otherwise it would be just a long ride out with friends with no real agenda to do anything crazy until somebody decides to burst from the bunch, and then you're left without any option. And everyone's like sitting there saying, oh, easy, and then somebody just flips the switch, and then that's when the mayhem comes out. But it's all in good fun, and I think that's sort of where. So for me, it's about 3 to 4 rides a week in general.
So with the current pandemic situation, there's been a huge debate in cycling groups and cycling communities on whether to ride in groups, not to ride in groups, whether to wear a mask or not to wear a mask, because there's just so much information out there, which probably a lot of it is noise. And it's something that's important, but at the same time, it's important to understand the logic behind where all these recommendations are coming in. So would you like to kind of throw some light on that aspect of riding?
So I think one thing we have to realize is that COVID as a disease is infancy, right? This is 6 months old. To date, we don't have a disease that as physicians we have grappled and answered and sorted out in 6 months. So we're still learning a lot about this, but we do know some simple things. We know that it is transmitted through droplet infection and through airborne transmission. We know that air is a huge volume. We don't know how many viruses it takes to infect somebody. So my sense is be smart about this. So if you're out there riding on your own, it's not like COVID is just floating around. So if you're out there riding on your own, I don't really see any need for a mask. If you're out there riding as a group, the question is, first of all, a large group is probably not the smartest thing to do. A small group is good because it's a group of people that usually you know. You know what their backgrounds are, you know where they are, you know what kind of contact they're keeping. So you know that these are not people who are just sort of going all over the place. So keeping your group of people you ride with as people you're familiar with their patterns of movement and how conscious they are about their own health and the health around theirs, automatically puts you at a level of being reasonably conscientious about what you're doing. So in that group too, and then if you're riding together, again, if you keep a decent distance, and it's not that hard to keep 4 or 5 feet. Remember that when you're riding, there's also a lot of wind movement. It's just blowing wind all over the place. So sure, can that one coronavirus go from here from my nostril and we go across and hit the other guy's nostril exactly? Sure, it's possible. So I guess I'm not loud enough according to some people.
I think there's some flicker noise.
There's a ticking noise. Yeah, it must be.
Yes.
This better, by the way.
This is much better. Yeah,
okay,
much better.
That the headphone always gives this noise. So I think in terms of riding, the things that I would say, if you're on your own, no mask is fine. If you're riding in a group, make sure you ride in a small group and you know who the people in the group are and how conscientious you are. And in those situations, I actually don't mask up. I keep it for times that after the ride, you sort of stop and everybody hangs out and you're going to be talking to each other. That's the time that I would keep the mask. So that's when the air around you is more stagnant and not moving around. And I would just avoid riding in large groups, which consist of people that I don't know. In general, I would stay out of that. So that's sort of my take on what to do, and that's what I follow. I might get arrested, but I'll deal with that in that.
No, but I think that's the most logical way to look at it as well. Is that it's very important that you said that. Look, there's a huge volume of air. I think there's this huge fear amongst people that, oh, there's a virus lurking at every nook and corner. Wherever you go, there's going to be a virus. You got to be kind of uh, practical and logical about it and treat it the way that it's supposed to be. There's just so much of misinformation that kind of goes around that makes people even more fearful. And I think that's important that, we don't be fearful, but at the same time, we're not like those कुछ नहीं होने वाला है and चलता है attitude. That's not something that one needs to prescribe to as well.
And I think the other thing that happens with that is you end up, it's a slippery slope, right? Once you start letting things go, the line starts to blur very easily or move one way or the other very easily. And that's what you really have to be careful about. Is that what is that line that you're going to draw? And then you're going to say, all right, this is where I do it. I mean, it's easy to say that, okay, I'm going to ride with these 4 guys. And tomorrow, another one shows up. And you say, well, that's fine. And then day after tomorrow, another 10 show up. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. Now maybe we're not being very smart about things. So you've got to sort of figure that a little bit out in your head.
I don't know where I don't remember where I read this, but it was a doctor who said that you need to be paranoid about it to be safe. How true is that? I mean, when something like this, when you read, you kind of step back and say, do you need to be paranoid about it? Like probably spray yourself every 2 minutes or,
So there is a, like I said, it's something you have to be practical about. It's airborne. And I say that, your worst nightmare is sort of being in very close quarters with somebody who has COVID in a small air-conditioned room. That is your absolute worst nightmare. That's the greatest chance of you getting COVID, right? And your safest situation is you're 6 feet apart with masks, right? The question is, where do you lie in that? Where, as an individual, are you happy in that thing? Are you the kind of person who says, I don't care, man, this is, if we're together, you get it, that's fine. And they've shown in studies that, essentially on things that people have been looking at, that even in homes, in the same home, there's somewhere in the range of only 20 to 30% of cohabitants in a home who get the disease. And they get it primarily, so it'll be more often between spouses, sometimes especially between younger children. But the amount of transmission that happens in a home between, say, somebody and their help, if that help is not, very actively involved as being a caregiver for you, like in other words, yes, an older person coming around, then they are more likely to give you things. But if the help is, doing their stuff in the house and you're doing your stuff in the house, then the likelihood of your getting the disease is also significantly lower. So now it's a question of where do you sit on your paranoia scale, right? Are you the one that says that, boss, 8 feet apart with masks at all times, and I'm not messing with that at all. Plus, I know this could come from particulate. I know this could come from somebody flushing because there's a study that talks about the flush, shower and all that stuff. Or you're the guy who says, okay, I'm going to be, or your person who says, I'm going to be practical about this. In general, anybody I don't know, good amount of distance, So it's a hard thing. And for me to tell you as a rule, or for anybody to tell you as a rule, don't do this, and then or do that, you could still get it.
Exactly.
There's no way to say that you're not going to get it. You can still get it. It's just what's your risk-taking behavior. And in general, remember that you're not taking a risk just for yourself. You're taking it for everybody around you. So, obviously somebody who has lots of older people at home will be, more conservative. Somebody just lives in a small family with the 2 of them and they're like, whatever, if we get it, we get it. Maybe less. But there's always going to be variations to this. But I would say the practical thing is obviously, maintain the social distancing. When you're in public areas where you don't know the people, you don't know the crowds, wear the masks. And I think that just being practical about those things more than anything else.
So, as a bunch, doctors are usually always been a busy bunch, let's call it that, because there's just, in a country like India, it's a well-known fact that the number of doctors for the population are anyways less. And as a result of which, demand far outstrips supply, if I was to just put it that way. Now with the pandemic situation, I would assume that that's even more stressful for doctors and, people who are, even if you're not a COVID doctor and not on the front lines, but even if you're just generally a doctor who has a practice tucked away in a corner and is going to do his day-to-day job, it's a stressful situation to be in. So what are those fitness activities or things that doctors possibly do, or you are aware of certain doctors doing things during this during the pandemic?
So I can speak for at least 3 or 4 doctors that I know who I ride with. Uh, I would say that this has in many ways been uh, horribly said, a blessing in disguise. Most of us live these extremely busy, stressful lives with constant phone calls for all sorts of stuff. That's gone away. So you suddenly have like a block of time which you never had. And you know, those doctors who have been purely into medicine and that's it for their entire lives, I would say those have suffered because they're constantly complaining and whining and moaning about not having work. For those many of us who have not, you know, medicine has been great, we've been doing, you know, it's been busy, it's been a part of our lives. For us, it's been an area that we've just suddenly found this block of time to follow all those other things that we really want to do and give it much more time. So we've got into, whether it be, you know, cycling more, comedy, music, photography, whatever those things are. So people have had much more time. So mentally, in many ways, it's just been a really, really nice sort of situation to be in. For fitness, I think most of the doctors that I know that have always been fit have used this as an opportunity to actually increase the amount of time that you spend on fitness.
Okay.
So I have spent innumerable number of hours on Ruby this past during the lockdown. I will swear by my kicker, by my Wahoo, you know, all the time. And it's been great to get out and, I mean, to be on even the trainer and just ride and have everybody coming online at the same time, and then everybody sort of you know, having, and you know, whether it occasionally be you get onto the post ride Zoom thing, or, and here it's also nice because, you know, honestly, riding on the road, sometimes you're, you know, worried about how much you're going to put out, where you're going to get run over, what's going to happen. Get out on Ruby and it's like no holds barred, you know. Everybody is just like smashing it. And I have to say, the first month of lockdown, I don't think I've had more tired legs ever.
That's great.
Let me get, all right, easy ride today, and then the first little hillock comes, and you know, riding in Bombay is just flat, 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 flat. I mean, we have the Koldu Alkeshwar, which is like this little, you know, Piddu climb that goes up, you know, not even 300 feet or whatever else, and we all, you know, or as a friend of ours who was visiting said, you have the Koldu there, you can go up, you know, and it's, and so we don't really get that. And now suddenly you can be out there, you can be climbing Bontu, or you can be climbing, you know, anything else that you wanted to, and you just have a whole bunch of crazies deciding to like smash it up until somebody falls apart, and then they want to do it again and again and again, and it's like, last time you got me, this time I'm gonna get you. And I think at the end of 1 month, I don't think anybody could really pedal at all. So then things start to settle up. So yeah, definitely using this time more for those who have been fit, definitely using it more. I would say at the beginning of lockdown, one of the things I was doing for my friends who were not into fitness, I would just poke them every day. I would send them a WhatsApp. So I did my Tabata workout, or I did my something or the other, and did you do yours? And then gradually you'd get messages back. I had to, damn it, I had to. Now you message me. So yeah, it's been. I think that it's, you know, about doing things, talking about it, getting it out there, and building that. So for us, I mean, I would say for those who are fit, it's always a big thing. Yeah.
So I think it's not only about keeping yourself fit, but you are motivating the others in your group of friends circle, that you kind of keep egging them and pushing them to stay fit. Now, not many people know that you are a budding stand-up comic. How did that, my mom, she works with Fan Hospital and in a social work kind of a space, but she's always told me stories about how doctors are always a multifaceted personality, and all that I've heard her go to these concerts where doctors get on stage and sing, and I always, in my head, I thought, oh, that's that additional multifaceted personality coming out. And I've always heard about doctors being great singers, but here you are, who's interested in being a stand-up comic, and you do these great characters like Rusi Kaka, Sobo Mom, Dave Kaka. How did that come about?
So I think as kids, you grow up, and there's always the one kid in a group who tends to be the one who has the more
who tends to want to laugh and make everybody laugh a lot more. So I guess I was that kid, and from that it sort of grew into. It never really. I mean, I was never really thinking that much about comedy until I actually had a patient who I was talking to, and he happened to be there, and we were just chatting back and forth. And he would say something, and I would say something funny back, and he would say something funny, and I would say something funny back, and it just went on, and we were just 45 minutes later, he turns around and says, "Doc, did you ever think about doing stand-up comedy?" And I said, the thought has crossed my mind, but I never really thought too much about it because I don't know anything about stand-up comedy. He said, "Well, I'm a stand-up comic. I can help you become a stand-up comic." And I said, "Really? That's amazing. I'll do that." And then I never spoke to him for 2 years. And then suddenly the bee was in the bonnet, and then I kind of reconnected with him and asked him, "Well, what do you think?" And then I wrote this 4-minute set, and I went out and he helped me, sort of scratch through it. And in those days, Canvas Laugh Factory, and I went out and I performed there, and I got a few chuckles, and it was really nice, and it felt good. And then a few months later, I said, "Oh, I'm going to go again," and I went again, and I got out there, and I hadn't prepared that well, and I went and did some stuff, and I wasn't getting much of a reaction from the crowd, so I tried some stuff that I knew was really funny, like the funniest thing I knew ever, and I just got pin drop silence, and at that point in time, I said, "You are not a funny audience, and you don't deserve my humor. So now I'm going to sulk for like." And then I ran into. Then I had my cycling group, and we'd gone on a bike trip to Manali, and we gone Manali Leh. And on the bike trip, a few of us, we were just having a blast, just laughing, and I was doing all the accents I used to do as a kid. It's something I really enjoyed as a kid was accents. So I was doing that, and everyone was having a great time. And then we decided at the end of the trip, somebody says, "You got to start doing something." So I said, "Okay, I've got at least 15 people who will laugh at me. So I started making these like 1-minute, 2-minute videos and audio clips and sending them to them. And that had some traction. And then a few with them. I said, because you guys are the chosen ones, you will get my humor. The rest of you, I don't care about." And then suddenly these humor clips are coming back to me from other friends who hadn't sent it to me, who would say like, "Dude, this sounds like you. This is, and I was like, "Yeah, but how did you get this?" I said, "Well, I got it forwarded from somebody somewhere." These things are doing the rounds, But again, even that, I went through a period. It's like training, it's the same thing. You go through it, you get a high, you get to some point, and then you're like, "No, I'm not really enjoying it. It's not working for me, whatever." And then you stop again. And then a few years later, again, I went and then I got into the stand-up community, and I started doing more sets all over the place and doing stuff. And then it's sort of grown from there. It's strange. A lot of the stand-up world out there is in its 20s. The audiences, the comedians, all in their 20s and 30s. And here's this like 47-year-old person walking around like a nut, trying to bring grandpa jokes about washing powder nirma to an audience that so it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun, and it definitely keeps you on your toes, keeps you thinking about a lot of things, and like the people that I draw some of the humor in terms of is it's very my spoiled South Bombay upbringing, so it's like. I went to school with a lot of Parsis, so it was by default that you're like, had to have a Parsi character, Tamek, so what are you doing? Where are you going? And then, when you do cycling, you got to think about the Parsi cyclist. Hamari cycle mein aam karish, pachi ahiyan thi saaf karish. This is what I'll do. That is what I'll do. And you bring that into your world. And then, being a Gujarati, I think one thing that you all have is like every Gujarati has got family in the US.
Yes, absolutely.
There's only one Gujarati who doesn't have family in the US. Right? Narendra Modi. Other than that, so you get into this whole thing, and there you have, and they always come and visit you, and they always have the same story, Aditya, when I came to America, I had only $5 in my pocket, look at me now, big house, big car. What are you doing in India? So dirty here. How you can live here? We got a big house, we got a mansion here. The same story, and you're like, just stop, for crying out loud, stop. And they have that, and then when you have a daughter who goes to school, then occasionally you run into you run into another crowd, which is that very much of that when we went to school it was so different, it was like this, and we used to do that, and now I only get this, and I buy my avocados here, and I buy my that there, and I buy it's just this different world, like compared to the rest of the entire universe. Like South Bombay lives in a small, like it's like this ulti micro universe that you live in, which there's only like 8 people who understand this world. So I think that's an area that I enjoy. I also find, I mean, my coach is British, you know him, but I always enjoy him a lot because I'm like, it's so hard that you have to come to India to find good cyclists. I mean, really, and I know he's messaging me right now. He's seething, he's like, I'm gonna give you some pain. So I think those things. And as a stand-up comic, it's sort of rite of passage that you have to look at somebody like Donald Trump because, it's kind of difficult to not be so smart as I am because I know what's right all the time and I say whatever I want, however seriously, but it's always going to be funny and I'm a genius and you know that and that's just the
No, this is brilliant, Aditya. I think, it's amazing that we don't get to see more of you. But I think the general population needs to see more of your characters out in the open. Probably open set sometime soon when the pandemic kind of eases off.
They're doing a lot of. I'm doing Zoom comedies. I think they can message. I'm happy to help them out. I'm raising funds for awareness for residents who are doctors who are working in hospitals and to give them needs. So what I've done is right now. I mean, for me, I just enjoy doing this. I enjoy seeing people laugh. I did a few shows for a couple of NGOs and other things where they just said, listen, we've got people who are just feeling everybody's run through all of Netflix, all of Amazon Prime, all of Hotstar, and now we need something else. So what I generally do is I just bring out the characters and I let everybody quiz them any which way they want on whatever they want. Like you can ask any question to any character and the character will respond with something ridiculous and on the fly. And I think that's what I like about it is it's your show. So I'm here, but it's your show. You decide where the show goes, what it does, and where it goes. So I think that's sort of where I'm also looking, where we look at it. So yeah, this is something that's available and we can do, and I think it's been fun to do that as well.
No, that's great. I know the campaign that you run right now to raise funds for resident doctors. That's great. In our capacity, from a Scott perspective, we're very happy to kind of make a small donation to that as well. We've decided that as a business, we're going to do that. And look, I think, for a personality like yours who's been through this journey where you kind of kept the passion going on, you've kept yourself motivated to do what feels right for you and your circle of people. I think it's very important that people in these times take this message ahead, is that you don't need to be boxed into one way of thinking. There are various methods and opportunities that present itself to keep yourself fit, both physically as well as mentally. I mean, the stand-up comedy that you do, I'm sure the laughs that it has brought to everybody who's watching in and who's joined in, they're going to go back thinking about the Parsi man and Donald Trump. So I think, it's brilliant and it's a great pleasure having you. Thank you for taking out time and doing this with our Scott family. We hope to see you soon sometime on a bike when the situation is better. And hopefully we can do a ride together or maybe a stand-up session for the Scott Owners Group sometime soon.
That's done. And I also wanted to say, my first bike I bought, my first bike that was not a complete clunker was a Scott S40. So I had to grit my teeth, and it at that time it felt like, oh my God, what am I doing? So it was definitely the best investment I made, and that bike still stands on a trainer at SportsMed, and I still use it. And it's I mean, I think what Scott is doing for cycling and for the cycling community and working with all of us is phenomenal. And I think this whole concept of keep the passion, getting everybody back on board, wanting everybody to get out on bikes and keep riding is great, and it's fabulous. And I'm glad I can be a part of it and help with that. And I think for everybody, just get out on your bikes, just be a bit smart. I mean, one thing that I was just saying is that it's so unbelievable that today you can go and ride in the city of Bombay at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly.
You could never do that. Right?
Exactly.
It's almost like you want to do this for the surreal reason that you can do this. So, today I went out for a ride at 8 o'clock in the morning. The other day I went at 3 in the afternoon. And you're like, I can explore the city at whatever time I want now. So I think that, now it's less of a, so, and that goes for the crowding. Like it's not like now everybody has to get out and ride at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning. You can space yourself all day long. So if you pick a time and there are going to be less people out there, then ride at that time. You're still going to have an empty road to yourself and make the most of it, I would say.
Exactly. No, I think it was great fun having you on the Keep the Passion series. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jaymin. Really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you. See you soon. Bye.